Hi, this is Mike Ernest. I want to create a video that really illustrates graphically what good and bad communication looks like. I know some people are much more visual than auditory, and so hopefully this will help demonstrate through the use of images what it looks like to really work well with another person and effectively manage important conversations. In order to do so, we're going to have two different stick images. We're going to have the actor, who's us, you or me, or one of us who's working on managing and improving how effective we are at communicating with other people when those outcomes really matter. Then we're going to have a customer. And that customer, as we oftentimes talk about, could be your boss, colleague, subordinate, customer, or a host of other types of people depending on your job description and position within an organization. And then if we look at the most basic kind of conversation that takes place in business, they typically refer to it as a connect conversation, meaning it's like a social conversation. And I put it here just because it represents the bulk of conversation, which is just an exchange between people, and it's really a human thing where we're acknowledging people and we're having a dialogue, and typically it gains a level of camaraderie and rapport with one another. However, that's not really our focus. What we want to focus on are the important conversations, the ones where there is a North Star for where we want to take something. So there's an outcome we're trying to achieve. And typically this is going to be about a project or a task or a goal or initiative. And there's something that we want to try to accomplish through the use of this conversation. And when we think of a conversation, oftentimes this is what we think of. We have this topic and we're having a discussion about it. And really that seems to be the dynamic. We're focused on that and we have a dialogue on that and we complete our conversation with some kind of an outcome. However, that's not really what's going on. And if we add this idea that we both parties have our own individual ideas and motivations and concerns about how this topic will help and complicate our own objectives and needs and desires, it will provide a little bit more color and more texture to what's really going on. So what this graphic is trying to represent is that each party has their own set of ideas and beliefs about the project, and they have their own set of motivators as to why they would like to either see it move forward, as well as they have concerns about things about it. It could be budgets and constraints and other issues, but we'll typically have both things that we'd like to see happen as well as things that concern us about it. And so those are sitting in our minds, and oftentimes they're not necessarily brought into our conversation, so we've left them out of the typical conversation. And so this would be more of an actual important conversation that's taking place. And then if we demonstrate what it looks like for a typical influential, important conversation where we're actually trying to really move somebody or kind of push somebody to an outcome, then it looks a little bit more like this, where we will still be talking about the topic, but we'll add in some of our motivators as we're trying to explain to them why this is important and why we need to get to a certain outcome and why we think it makes sense to do certain things. So we'll typically be adding our own ideas or our own motivators into that dialogue, and we'll be demonstrating them not because they asked, but because we were just proactively bringing that up, which is why in this graphic representation, it's within the call out symbol of the orange, and it's something that we brought up ourselves. And then if we take it up a notch further and we look at the typical supervisor influential important conversation, it's going to look even a little bit more aggressive, where we add even more reasons why we think things needs to move forward. And oftentimes we even turn the project into something that's very important for our objectives and what we're trying to accomplish. So graphically, we're just trying to represent a little bit more of our knowledge is being put forth and proactively put on the table. And over the last 100+ years, this is what the dialogues typically look like. And even when I'm explaining this, hopefully that sounds kind of like it makes sense. If a supervisor is intense and needs to get something done, they oftentimes jump into the conversation or the meeting and they start laying down what they see needs to happen, and they start making suggestions for how to move forward. And it really is a very proactive, pushing thing. The only challenge is that although this is the way we've been doing business for the last 100+ years, as long as we've had an industrialized business situation, it's now become very well understood and proven that it's not effective. And the problem, though, is that this is what we've really grown to see as normal, and as kind of the position that supervisors or even colleagues will take is, to get our points across, we kind of want to add our information to the conversation and help people understand. And another thing this diagram is trying to represent is that we feel that we really do know what the other person's thinking and what their motivators are and what their ideas and concerns are. So we don't ask. We jump right into telling what we think needs to be done. And sometimes we use it out of the belief that we need to go quick, and we need to make sure that we spend the bulk of our dialogue on how we're going to get it done and not so much around the why or the dynamics of potentially some of the constraints that are involved with the other people. So let's take a look at now what's proven to be wildly more effective, but not nearly as often seen in business today. And that is going to be where we have the actor, the person in our position who's trying to manage the conversation as effectively as possible. We realize that this other person is going to have their own ideas and beliefs, and there's probably something that if we understand it, if we understand their motivations, if we understand their concerns, and we ask about those things, that as we talk about how to move the project or the initiative forward, we can take that into consideration on problem solving on how to make sure we get everything done and how we do it in a way that actually brings this person along and they come along willingly. And so this would be an example of a more effective, important conversation. And we're trying to demonstrate again that now we better understand what this other person is thinking. And we have a dialogue around this North Star, this main topic, and what we're trying to accomplish. But we do it from a level of better understanding. And when we present our information or when we try to get to that desired outcome, we're doing it with our eyes more wide open, or a higher level of understanding as to what does it take to make sure we have this person's buy-in, or how do we make sure that we align this in a way that these people can support this and will support it, and it won't create some kind of backlash later on or some kind of subversive act. And we can even do better. So a most effectively managed important conversation is going to look like this. Not only are we going to ask and include and better understand most or many of the motivators behind this person and their concerns, we're also going to even develop them and have them further understand how where we're trying to take our initiative or our project is in alignment or will support what this person needs. And so the representation of the bigger blue star, for example, the dialogue is actually helping them better understand the why and how they can work with us in a way that really is supportive of what their goals and needs are. And so it represents that we have more clarity about their motivators and their concerns and their ideas, as well as we share some of ours just to have them better understand kind of the collaboration and how we're working together, and they can better understand some of the things that we also need to accomplish as we go through this. And so that would be the concept of the most effectively managed important conversation in terms of what we can bring to bear. And then the most exciting thing is when we look at this could be a two-way street, where we actually have two individuals that are highly trained, and we call it, of course, CQ, meaning they both have a high level of intelligence for managing important conversations. So they both get the dynamics that, hey, we have multiple constraints and multiple motivators and multiple things going on, and the fastest way to move forward is to understand the dynamics of both parties, get those things on the table so we can collaborate and we can innovate on how to move the ball further down the field as fast as possible. And so when we look at the most effective, important conversation, this is the representation where both people are collaboratively investigating, and now you're looking at a highly engaged and effective company. And I think it's a true opportunity now in business today is to actually develop people to have this level of CQ, to be able to approach important conversations and proactively and quickly get to the details of what do we need to do to move things forward. So in this kind of an organization, what we have is a situation where everyone is clear on the how-to and feel comfortable for understanding the other person's thoughts and ideas, meaning these people actually are trained and understand how to provoke those things, how to get those things on the table, and they also feel it's their responsibility to do that, because by doing it, it's only going to speed up performance. It's going to eliminate pushback, and it's going to eliminate conflict, and it's going to allow us to innovate when we have the pieces of information and the knowledge that we need to really solve problems. And they'll also know how to and feel accountable to maintain a discipline to understand first and talk second. What an incredible opportunity to have a group of people where they all know that, hey, listen, for me to really start telling people and promoting to people what we think they should do or what we want them to do, but we first need to understand what the lay of the land looks like. That discipline is going to uncover the best way to explain where we need to go and do so more efficiently. Another skill is that demonstrating and maintaining respect for the other person. And when we say that these people know how to do this, it means that they understand, what does it take to alienate somebody? What does it take to really irritate somebody? And then they feel accountable not to do that. Because 9 times out of 10, people aren't trying to create conflict. It's just we break rules, we break communication rituals, and we take shots at people's egos when we don't even mean to. And that creates that chain of reactions, and things spiral down quickly. So if we know how to avoid that, and we feel responsible to not let that happen, again, great things are going to happen, and we'll avoid a lot of conflict. Clarifying and maintaining a mutual purpose. If we know how to elicit that and how to explain that and maintain that through a conversation, it only helps keep people on the same page and making them feel like we're safe. We're working on something that makes sense for everybody. And then lastly, there's a clarity on how and the necessity to ensure agreement for effective next steps, where everybody understands that it makes no sense to throw a bunch of people in the room and have a very expensive experience in terms of time and compensation and potentially travel and everything else, where we don't have real clarity as to what each group is going to do as a result of the conversation. So we feel both clear on how to get that done, as well as absolutely responsible that it does take place in a meeting over a meeting situation. So I hope you found this quick video insightful and helpful, and hopefully it provokes you to want to work on improving your team's CQ, because the opportunities and the benefits are massive. And we'd love it if you would review your ideas and strategies with us by contacting us through our website at cqfactor.com. Again, thanks for your attention, and hopefully you found this thought-provoking. Thank you.